She doesn't belong here. The whispers sliced through Manhattan's most exclusive shooting range as a woman in modest clothing stepped onto the pristine floor. The $50,000 annual membership crowd paused their morning routines, designer safety glasses tilting downward in unified disdain. At the center lane, a championship trophy gleamed under spotlight. Today's prize. 7-time national champion Richard Miller's custom Benelli, worth more than a suburban home, pointed downrange with deadly accuracy. His perfect score mocked the newcomer from the digital display. 10 shots, 10 bullseyes, the announcer's voice echoed. Can anyone challenge the champion? The woman quietly unpacked her weathered range bag, ignoring the snickers from observers in Gucci shooting vests and Burberry gear. Her hands moved with a peculiar confidence that seemed out of place among the luxury and pretense. Nobody noticed her wedding ring, or the way her fingers traced its outline before gripping her standard-issue Glock. Nobody knew the secrets behind her steady gaze. In exactly 30 seconds, everything these people believed about skill, status, and superiority would shatter. Watch and learn, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Miller's voice carried across the range, commanding attention like a ringmaster at his circus. His Italian leather boots pivoted as he faced the crowd. Custom Benelli raised with theatrical flair. Without looking at his target, he fired 5 consecutive shots. Each round pierced the center with mechanical precision, drawing appreciative gasps from his devoted audience. That, my friends, is why I remain undefeated. He turned to the woman, his smile sharp as a blade. Though I'm always entertained by amateur attempts. His entourage laughed on cue, their jewelry catching light as they applauded. The woman remained motionless, her focus unwavering. Richard's jaw tightened at her indifference. Perhaps a demonstration of real marksmanship might help our unexpected guest understand her place. Hey, Tales of Light family, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Are you Team Richard or rooting for our mysterious newcomer? Trust me, what happens next will leave you speechless. Hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss a single second of this showdown. Richard loaded his signature gold-plated rounds, each worth more than a day's wages. Let's make this educational, he announced, eyes fixed on the woman. 100 yards, moving targets, 5 seconds each. The rangemaster stepped forward, concern etched on his face. Sir, that's beyond regulation. My range, my rules, Richard cut him off. Unless our guest wants to admit she's out of her depth. The woman finally spoke, her voice carrying an authority that made Richard's entourage shift uncomfortably. Change the distance to 200 yards. 20 minutes earlier. Evelyn Walter stood before the mirror in her modest Manhattan apartment, her late husband's dog tags cool against her skin. The morning news droned in the background. Richard Miller set to break another world record at Pinnacle Academy. She tucked the tags beneath her gray Target sweater, shouldered her worn range bag, and pulled out the envelope containing her day pass, delivered yesterday by a mysterious courier. The note inside still burned in her mind. He always said you were his best student. Time to prove him right. The Pinnacle Academy's glass doors parted like a gateway to another world. The receptionist's eyes widened at her attire, manicured fingers pausing mid-text. Members only, she declared, voice clipped and cold. I have a day pass. Evelyn's quiet confidence seemed to unsettle the woman more than her clothing. 2 women at the coffee bar exchanged knowing glances. One adjusted her Cartier watch, deliberately turning away. The other lifted her phone, snapping a discreet photo while whispering something that made her companion smile with calculated amusement. Evelyn's fingers found her wedding ring, remembering Dave's words, "Let them underestimate you. It's their greatest weakness." Beyond the reception area, Pinnacle Academy showcased wealth in every detail. Private gun vaults lined the walls, each bearing prestigious family names etched in gold. Temperature-controlled display cases housed museum-worthy firearms, their price tags reading like luxury car costs. The members' lounge resembled a five-star hotel lobby. Persian rugs worth small fortunes cushioned Italian leather boots, while crystal decanters caught morning light on mahogany tables. A Bloomberg terminal occupied one corner, allowing members to monitor their portfolios between sessions. Near the premium lanes, a wall of achievements chronicled Richard Miller's dominance. Magazine covers, Olympic medals, and championship trophies. His latest photo showed him shaking hands with the president, his signature smirk perfectly practiced. As Evelyn unpacked her range bag, her fingers brushed against a hidden compartment she hadn't opened since Dave's funeral. Inside lay his final gift. A custom-modified sight he'd designed himself, tested in conditions that remained classified. "When you're ready," his note had read, "this will help you see what others can't." A shadow fell across her station. The rangemaster, Diana Stone, approached with an unusual expression, recognition flickering behind her professional mask. Diana's eyes darted to Evelyn's range bag, then to the wedding ring, and finally to her stance. 20 years of military experience had taught Diana to spot the difference between learned posture and ingrained muscle memory. She opened her mouth to speak, but Richard's voice boomed through the range. "Ladies and gentlemen, gather round. Our guest needs a proper Pinnacle Academy welcome." Diana's face paled. She'd seen that look in Richard's eyes before, the same look that had ended 3 careers last quarter. But something else worried her more. The subtle shift in Evelyn's posture, a change so slight only someone with Diana's background would recognize it. Tales of Light family, pause with me for a moment. Have you ever witnessed someone being judged before they could prove themselves? Maybe you've been in Evelyn's shoes, standing alone while others look down on you. Here's what I want you to think about. What do you believe Diana, our rangemaster, just noticed about Evelyn? What secret might be hiding behind that simple wedding ring and weathered range bag? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you're invested in seeing how this unfolds, make sure that subscribe button turns red. Because in the next few minutes, you'll witness a moment that changed Pinnacle Academy forever. Remember to hit that like button if you've ever been underestimated. Now, let's get back to what happened next. 2 years earlier, San Diego's Seaport Village. Evelyn Walter hadn't planned on visiting Warwick's bookstore that afternoon. Yet here she stood, ironically searching the self-help section for a book about finding excitement in life. Her fingers trailed along the spines until they stopped at Finding Adventure in the Ordinary, another title promising to transform her methodically planned existence. A movement caught her eye. In the military history section, a man in civilian clothes stood absorbed in Advanced Marksmanship, the Art of Precision. His coffee cup teetered dangerously on the narrow shelf, forgotten in his concentration. "Watch out!" Her warning came just as the cup tilted. The man's hand shot out with startling speed, catching it before a drop could spill. His movement was fluid, economical, nothing wasted. "Thanks for the heads up," he smiled, revealing laugh lines around alert eyes. "I'm usually more observant." "Must be quite a book," Evelyn replied, noticing how he held it. Not casual browsing, but studying with purpose. "Dave Walter," he introduced himself, closing the book. Something about his presence commanded attention without demanding it. No military uniform, yet his bearing spoke of service and discipline. "Evelyn," she responded, surprised by his genuine interest when she mentioned her work in statistical analysis. Most men's eyes glazed over at the mention of numbers. "Statistics?" His eyes lit up. "Ever applied that to long-range shooting? Wind patterns, trajectory calculations?" The conversation sparked something neither expected. A bridge between their seemingly different worlds, built on precision, analysis, and the beauty of exact science. What began as a chance encounter over a teetering coffee cup transformed into hours at the bookstore's cafe. Dave's enthusiasm for military history blended seamlessly with Evelyn's love of mathematical precision, creating a conversation that flowed like a well-written story. In SEAL operations, Dave explained, sketching diagrams on a napkin, we use statistical models similar to your work. Wind velocity, atmospheric pressure, even the Earth's rotation, it all affects the shot. Evelyn leaned forward, intrigued, like a complex equation where every variable matters. Exactly. His eyes met hers with unexpected warmth. Most people think shooting is just point and pull, but it's really about understanding patterns, predicting outcomes. They moved from book to book, their discussions ranging from tactical precision to favorite novels. Dave's recommendations weren't just military manuals. He loved classic literature, particularly stories about quiet strength and unexpected courage. As sunset painted the bay in golden hues, they realized they'd spent the entire afternoon talking. Dave's phone buzzed, a reminder of evening training duties at the base. I'd like to continue this conversation, he said, writing his number on the back of his receipt. Maybe over dinner? Evelyn smiled, recognizing that this wasn't just about books anymore. Something more profound was taking shape, built on shared understanding and mutual respect. Tales of Light family, I know that special moment when fate steps in and changes everything. Was there a chance encounter that transformed your life? A moment that seemed ordinary, but led to something extraordinary? Share your story in the comments below. When did you meet someone who saw beyond the surface and recognized something special in you? Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because this love story is about to intertwine with an incredible display of skill that nobody at Pinnacle Academy saw coming. Their bookstore meeting blossomed into a relationship built on shared passions and mutual respect. During their first dinner date, Dave revealed his identity as a member of SEAL Team 6, known as the Wind, for his unmatched precision in the most challenging operations. Their courtship was unlike any other. Evenings spent discussing trajectory calculations over home-cooked meals, weekends exploring local bookstores, and long walks on the beach, where Dave would point out how the wind affected everything from waves to sand patterns. In Evelyn, he found someone who understood the beauty of precision and the poetry in mathematics. What started as intellectual discussions evolved into deep emotional connection. Dave, known for his calculated approach to everything, found himself captivated by Evelyn's analytical mind and gentle spirit. She discovered layers to him beyond the disciplined SEAL. A man who could spend hours discussing literature, who loved solving complex puzzles, and whose eyes lit up when sharing his passions. 3 months later, Dave brought her back to Seaport Village, to the very bookstore where they first met. Between the shelves of their favorite sections, military history and mathematics, he knelt down. "You're the variable I never knew was missing in my life's equation," he said, presenting a simple but elegant ring. "Will you marry me?" Evelyn's yes marked the beginning of what they both believed would be their greatest adventure together. After their honeymoon, Dave introduced Evelyn to his world of marksmanship with the same patience he'd shown discussing books. Their backyard became a classroom where physics met precision. "Shooting isn't about the gear," Dave explained one morning, adjusting her stance with gentle hands. "It's about understanding the harmony between mind, body, and breath." He taught her to feel the wind before seeing its effects, to read the environment like pages in a book. His teaching style matched her analytical nature perfectly. Each lesson began with theory, the mathematics of trajectories, the physics of bullet flight, the psychology of focus. Dave translated complex military concepts into the statistical language she understood. "Most people think exceptional shooting is about natural talent," he'd say, watching her practice breathing techniques. "But it's really about mastering variables. The gun is just one element." Your heartbeat, the Earth's rotation, atmospheric pressure, they're all part of the equation. What impressed him most was her ability to process information holistically. Where others saw separate elements, Evelyn saw patterns, connections, the mathematical poetry of precision shooting. She approached each lesson like a complex problem to solve, breaking down movements into their component parts. "You have something rare," Dave told her one evening, pride evident in his voice. "You don't just memorize the principles, you understand them. That's what makes the difference between a good shooter and an exceptional one." Their training sessions evolved into a unique expression of love. While other couples had date nights at restaurants, Dave and Evelyn found joy in perfecting her form at sunset. He marveled at how quickly she grasped advanced concepts, while she delighted in seeing this side of her husband, patient teacher, precise mentor, proud partner. They developed their own language, a blend of military jargon and statistical terms. Evelyn applied her expertise in data analysis to create detailed performance charts, while Dave translated years of field experience into practical wisdom. Together, they refined techniques that combined her mathematical precision with his tactical knowledge. "You're not just learning to shoot," Dave would say, watching her calculate wind derivatives. "You're learning to read the world in a different way." He was right. Every breeze, temperature shift, and atmospheric change became part of a complex equation she could solve. Their shared passion deepened their connection. In the quiet moments between shots, they'd discuss everything from literature to life philosophy. Dave found himself learning as much as he taught. Seeing his craft through her analytical eyes gave him fresh perspectives on skills he'd mastered years ago. The morning started like any other. Dave kissed Evelyn goodbye, his coffee still warm on the counter. "I'll be back for dinner," he promised. "Maybe we can try that new long-range technique you theorized." His team was scheduled for a routine training exercise. At least, that's what the official calendar showed. But something in his embrace felt different. A fraction longer, a touch tighter. Evelyn would later remember how he lingered at the door, memorizing her face. The notification came through his direct chain of command. 2 Naval Special Warfare representatives arrived at their home, accompanied by the unit chaplain. Their presence at her doorstep told her everything before they spoke a word. The SEAL community was tight-knit. They took care of their own. "Mrs. Walter." The words blurred together. Phrases like classified operation and ultimate sacrifice floating past her like debris in a storm. The folded flag they presented felt impossibly heavy in her hands. The details of the mission remained hidden behind redacted documents and classified stamps. His team members could only offer silent hugs and meaningful looks. Dave's final moments, like many aspects of his service, would remain known only to those who were there. In the days that followed, Evelyn discovered notes he'd left throughout their home. In his training journals, tucked between book pages, inside her statistical analysis folders. Each one revealed a different facet of their life together. Each one ended with the same message: trust your training. Trust yourself. After the funeral, Evelyn couldn't touch a firearm. The range bag sat untouched in their closet, next to his neatly arranged gear. His training journals remained closed, their pages holding his voice, his wisdom, his love. Too precious to read, too painful to discard. She moved to New York, seeking anonymity in the city's endless crowds. The corporate world of statistics and data analysis became her refuge, a place where numbers made sense when nothing else did. Her colleagues knew her only as the quiet professional who wore a simple gold band and stayed late at the office. In her Manhattan apartment, far from the San Diego beaches where they'd walked, she kept their memories close. His dog tags rested in their wooden case alongside the folded flag. The wall held their wedding photo and his Medal of Honor, reminders of both the man she loved and the hero his country had lost. 2 years of quiet corporate life shifted with a single delivery. The package arrived through official SEAL team channels, discreet, unmarked, yet carrying unmistakable authority. Inside, Evelyn found a day pass to Manhattan's Pinnacle Shooting Academy and a handwritten note from Marcus, Dave's former second-in-command. Dave always talked about how you saw patterns others missed, how you understood the mathematics behind every perfect shot. The team's been keeping tabs. We know you haven't touched a firearm since. But some skills shouldn't be lost, Evelyn. Sometimes healing means returning to what we once loved. Beneath the note lay Dave's custom sight modification, his final project, perfected through years of field experience. The metal felt cool against her fingers, familiar despite the years of absence. That evening, she opened his training journal for the first time since his death. The pages held more than instructions. They held memories of morning practices, shared discoveries, and the joy they found in precision. Perhaps Marcus was right. Some skills were too precious to let fade. The morning air at Pinnacle Academy hummed with tension as Richard Miller demonstrated his latest series of shots. His custom Benelli barked 5 times in rapid succession, each round finding its mark with mechanical precision. "Perfect score again," he announced, his voice carrying across the range. "Though that's hardly news anymore, is it?" That's when he noticed Evelyn at the basic lane, methodically unpacking her range bag. His eyes narrowed at her standard-issue Glock, so out of place among the custom firearms that surrounded them. "Well, this is unexpected," Richard said, striding over. His Italian leather boots clicked against the floor, drawing everyone's attention. "I wasn't aware we'd started offering public tours." His smile didn't reach his eyes as he examined her worn range bag. The range master, Diana Stone, stepped forward. "She has a valid day pass, Mr. Miller." "A day pass?" Richard's laugh was sharp. "To Pinnacle Academy, my dear, this isn't some local shooting gallery. We maintain certain standards here." He gestured to her simple attire. "Perhaps you misread the address?" Evelyn continued her preparations in silence, each movement precise and practiced. Her quiet focus seemed to irritate Richard more than any response could have. Richard's composure cracked slightly at Evelyn's continued silence. He turned to his audience, playing to the crowd that had gathered. "Let's make this educational," he announced, pulling his wallet from his custom shooting vest. $20,000 says you can't hit the bullseye at 50 yards. His smile turned predatory. "When you miss, you leave, immediately." Diana Stone stepped forward again. "Mr. Miller, that's not—" "It's my range, Diana," he cut her off sharply. "My rules." He turned back to Evelyn. "Unless our guest admits she's out of her depth." Evelyn finally looked up, her movements unhurried. "I don't have that kind of money. When you lose, you leave. If by some miracle you win, I pay." Richard's voice carried absolute certainty. "Simple enough for you?" The crowd watched, breath held as Evelyn considered the challenge. Her fingers brushed against her wedding ring, a gesture so subtle only Diana noticed. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but clear. "Yes." Tales of Light family, let's pause here for a moment. Have you ever been in a situation where someone underestimated you? Where they thought they had you figured out based on appearances alone? The stakes in this moment are more than just money. It's about dignity, respect, and standing your ground when the world tries to push you aside. What would you do in Evelyn's position? Would you take the bet? Drop a comment below sharing a time when you proved someone wrong about who you are and what you're capable of. Your story might inspire others facing similar challenges. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell, because what happens next will show exactly why you should never judge someone by their appearance. Evelyn approached the firing line with measured steps. Each movement was deliberate, efficient, muscle memory awakening after 2 years of silence. She settled into her stance, feet positioned exactly shoulder-width apart, just as David taught her. The Glock 17 felt familiar in her hands. She took a moment to read the range conditions. Temperature 71 degrees, humidity 45%, slight air current from the ventilation system moving at approximately 2 miles per hour from her left. Her analytical mind processed these variables automatically, converting environmental data into mathematical adjustments. She controlled her breathing, in for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. Her heart rate steadied. The target at 50 yards came into sharp focus through the sight. In this moment, everything Dave had taught her crystallized. The perfect alignment of body and weapon, the subtle compensation for the Earth's rotation, the microscopic adjustments for atmospheric conditions. Time seemed to slow. Between heartbeats, in that fraction of perfect stillness, her index finger took up the first stage of trigger pressure. The wall of resistance met her at exactly 4.5 pounds. She maintained steady pressure, feeling the trigger break like glass. Clean, crisp, without a hint of movement in the sights. The recoil was absorbed through her practiced grip, the muzzle barely lifting as the round found its way to the target. The sharp crack of the shot echoed through the range, followed by absolute silence. Diana Stone was the first to move, activating the target return system with practiced efficiency. As the target glided forward, the crowd unconsciously shifted closer. A perfect hole pierced the absolute center of the bullseye. The silence deepened. A member in a Burberry shooting vest lowered his espresso, forgotten mid-sip. Another's Rolex caught the light as he leaned forward, squinting in disbelief. Diana's expression remained neutral, but her eyes held a glimmer of satisfaction. In the back, 2 retired competition shooters exchanged knowing looks. They recognized the telltale signs of elite training, not just in the shot placement, but in the fundamental perfection of her form. Richard snatched the target from the carrier, his manicured fingers crinkling the paper. He held it up to the light, turning it over as if searching for evidence of deception. The perfect circle at dead center mocked his scrutiny. "Beginner's luck," he spat, color rising in his neck above his designer shooting vest. "Anyone can get lucky once." His carefully cultivated image of superiority cracked like thin ice. He turned to Diana, voice sharp enough to cut. "Check her credentials, her equipment, everything." His hand trembled slightly as he pointed at Evelyn's Glock. "That shot's impossible with standard gear. She must have modified." "Mr. Miller," Diana interrupted, her tone professionally firm. "The shot was clean. The equipment is regulation." She met his glare without flinching. "Would you like to proceed with equipment verification?" Richard's jaw clenched. The audience he'd cultivated was watching his composure slip, and he knew it. His next words came through gritted teeth. "This isn't over." In the tense silence that followed, Evelyn calmly began to pack her Glock away. Her movements remained unhurried, deliberate, a stark contrast to the charged atmosphere around her. The simple gold band on her finger caught the range lights as she secured her weapon. Diana watched the scene unfold, recognizing the disciplined patience of someone who understood that true skill needed no defense. The range master had seen enough competitions to know this wasn't just about one perfect shot. This was the calm before a storm. Richard Miller paced the firing line, his expensive boots clicking against the floor. His reputation, built on 7 national championships and 2 Olympic golds, hung by a thread. The whispers of his audience had shifted from admiration to uncertainty. "Let's make this interesting," Richard announced, his voice resonating through the range with theatrical precision. "3 days from now, you and I will have a proper competition." He gestured expansively at the elite range. 10 stations, each one a different challenge, each one with a different firearm, pistols, rifles, distances that would make Olympic shooters sweat. His audience leaned in, drawn by the dramatic shift. Richard reached into his custom shooting vest, producing his phone like a conductor drawing out his baton. He pulled up his banking app, the screen's glow illuminating his face. $100,000. Not to you, to your charity of choice. His smile was razor sharp. When you lose, you publicly admit you cheated today and never show your face here again. Evelyn stood motionless, her expression unchanged. Only Diana noticed her thumb brush against her wedding ring, not a nervous gesture, but a grounding one. The Fallen Warriors Foundation, Evelyn said quietly. Richard's eyebrows lifted slightly. It wasn't the response he expected. Fine. Thursday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. We'll see how well you perform when luck isn't on your side. Tales of Light family, the tension in this room is electric. Drop a comment if you're on the edge of your seat right now. What do you think about Richard's challenge? Is he trying to protect his reputation? Or is there something deeper driving his anger? And why did Evelyn choose the Fallen Warriors Foundation? If you're invested in seeing how this showdown unfolds, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Trust me, what happens over the next 3 days will change Pinnacle Academy forever. Over the next 3 days, Richard Miller worked methodically to ensure his victory. His first move was a deep background check on Evelyn Walter. What he discovered made his blood run cold. She was the widow of Commander Dave the Wind Walter, SEAL Team 6's legendary marksman. The man whose shooting records even Richard couldn't touch. Richard Miller worked methodically to ensure his victory. In his private office overlooking Manhattan, he made calls to his network of industry connections. Each station would feature a custom-modified weapon from his personal collection. Triggers adjusted just slightly off standard, sights calibrated to his specific preferences. The range staff received detailed instructions under the guise of competition preparation. Lighting would be adjusted to create subtle shadows at crucial angles. Air conditioning vents would be redirected to create unpredictable wind patterns at certain stations. Everything technically legal, but carefully orchestrated to favor his years of experience. He studied surveillance footage of Evelyn's shot frame by frame, looking for weaknesses. His research into her background hit military-grade firewalls, unusual for a civilian. This only fueled his determination to eliminate any chance of another surprise. What Richard didn't notice was Diana Stone's quiet observation of these preparations. The range master recognized the subtle adjustments being made to the equipment. She'd seen enough competitions to know the difference between standard preparation and calculated advantage. But she also saw something else. The calm certainty in Evelyn's eyes that suggested these manipulations might not matter at all. Word spread through Manhattan's elite shooting circles like wildfire. The widow of the wind versus Pinnacle Academy's champion. By Wednesday evening, the members' lounge buzzed with speculation and side bets. Richard's usual admirers now whispered about Commander Walter's legendary reputation in the special operations community. In her apartment, Evelyn spent the evenings reviewing Dave's old training journals. Each page held more than instructions. They contained his deeper understanding of how environment, equipment, and shooter became one. His notes on compensating for modified weapons seemed almost prescient now. As night fell, doubt crept in. 2 years had passed since she'd handled multiple firearms. Her hands trembled slightly as she traced the words in Dave's journal. But then she found his note tucked between pages of advanced calculations. Trust your foundation. When everything else changes, proper fundamentals never fail. You see patterns others miss. That's your strength. Use it. The night before the competition, Richard stayed late at the range, obsessively checking each station. His carefully constructed world of privilege and prestige balanced on tomorrow's outcome. In the polished windows of Pinnacle Academy, his reflection showed something new in his eyes. Fear. Thursday morning arrived with unprecedented attendance at Pinnacle Academy. The range had been transformed into a gauntlet of challenges. 10 stations stretched across the facility, each designed to test different aspects of marksmanship. The course progressed from seemingly simple to masterfully complex. It began with handguns, a modified Glock 19 and custom Smith & Wesson M&P in low-light conditions. The middle stations featured tactical weapons, Benelli M4 shotguns for moving clays, AR-15s for multiple target engagement, and an MP5 for precision under speed. The final stations housed the real challenges, a .338 Lapua Magnum for long-range precision, a Desert Eagle 50 AE for recoil management, culminating with the Barrett MRAD for what would be the longest shot in Pinnacle's history. Richard stood at Station 1, resplendent in his sponsored shooting gear. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced to the gathered crowd, "today we separate luck from skill." He gestured to the array of firearms. Each weapon has been precision-tuned to competition standards. No room for amateur success here. Evelyn arrived in the same simple gray sweater, her worn range bag by her side. She surveyed the stations methodically, her eyes noting details others might miss. Air vent positions, lighting angles, subtle modifications to each firearm. Her analytical mind was already processing the variables, just as Dave had taught her. The competition began with Richard taking first position. His shots with the Glock were textbook perfect, though those familiar with firearms noticed the trigger's slight resistance, a modification that would throw off most shooters' muscle memory. Each station revealed new technical hurdles. The shotgun's custom choke pattern spread differently than standard. The AR-15's modified buffer spring altered its recoil rhythm. The low-light station's adjusted sights required significant compensation. Every firearm had been subtly altered from factory specifications. Richard navigated these challenges with practiced ease, his years of experience with custom weapons evident in his performance. His shots were precise, his transitions smooth. To the untrained eye, it looked flawless. But Diana Stone noticed something in Evelyn's observation of Richard's run. While others watched his performance, she studied the weapon's behavior. Her eyes tracked the slightly different ejection patterns, noted the modified recoil impacts, calculated the sight offset variations. Each handicap Richard had engineered was becoming a data point in her analytical approach. The crowd murmured appreciatively at Richard's scores, not realizing they were watching two competitions, his physical display of skill and her silent collection of critical information. When Evelyn stepped up to Station 1, her approach differed markedly from Richard's showmanship. She took a moment with each weapon, her hands moving over them with purposeful precision. Where Richard had powered through the modified trigger, she adjusted her finger placement subtly. The shots broke clean. At the shotgun station, she spent an extra second patterning the custom choke's spread. Her clay target engagements weren't just hits, they were centered breaks, showing an understanding of lead calculation that drew raised eyebrows from the professional shooters present. The AR-15 station showcased her mathematical mind. She didn't fight the modified buffer spring but instead used its altered timing to create a rhythm. Multiple targets fell in a sequence that spoke of countless hours understanding ballistic fundamentals. What caught Diana's attention wasn't just the accuracy, but the efficiency. No wasted movement, no extra adjustments. Each compensation for the modified weapons looked natural, as if she'd anticipated the changes. The same quiet confidence that had marked her first shot carried through every station. Richard's face tightened as he watched. He'd expected the modifications to throw off her timing, to expose her as an amateur. Instead, she was turning his obstacles into opportunities. By the 7th station, the atmosphere at Pinnacle Academy had shifted dramatically. The whispers among Richard's usual supporters grew tense. Each of his carefully planned disadvantages seemed to highlight Evelyn's methodical expertise instead of undermining it. Richard's composure began to crack. Between stations, he demanded equipment checks, called for target verification, questioned scoring standards. His voice, increasingly sharp, carried notes of desperation that his designer shooting vest couldn't conceal. The crowd had swelled as word spread through Manhattan's shooting community. Former champions, military veterans, and curious members pressed closer to witness each stage. The story was too compelling. The elite champion versus the unassuming widow who matched him shot for shot. As they approached the final stations, Richard's earlier confidence had transformed into barely contained fury. The Barrett Emrad waited at Station 10, his ultimate challenge, the longest shot possible within Pinnacle's walls. But for the first time in his competitive career, Richard Miller wasn't certain of victory. The Barrett Emrad at Station 10 gleamed under the lights. The target stood at the absolute limit of Pinnacle's range, a shot that would challenge Olympic champions. Richard had saved his most significant modification for last, a custom scope with altered elevation adjustments. Evelyn stepped up, her movements unhurried. Her hands moved over the rifle with familiar respect, checking, measuring, understanding. The crowd fell silent as she settled behind the scope. In that moment, Dave's voice echoed in her memory. A rifle this precise doesn't just shoot, it has a conversation with you. She read the environmental data like a familiar book. Temperature, humidity, air pressure. The ventilation system's artificial wind currents created a complex pattern of drift. The scope's modified elevation markers told their own story. Each variable became part of her mental calculation. Between heartbeats, in that perfect moment of stillness, she pressed the trigger. The Barrett spoke with thunderous authority. Time seemed to stretch as the round traveled downrange, carrying with it 2 years of silence, grief, and renewal. The impact was visible before the sound fully faded. Dead center. Not just a hit, but a shot that grouped inside Richard's previous facility record. The digital display confirmed what the gathered crowd was already processing. Evelyn hadn't just matched the record, she'd broken it by a margin that shouldn't have been possible with a modified scope. Diana Stone stepped forward, her experienced eyes studying the target data. 0.25 minute of angle, she announced, her voice carrying across the now silent range. That's... She paused, looking at the historical records displayed on the wall. That's better than any shot ever recorded at Pinnacle Academy. The crowd's reaction was immediate. Professional shooters pushed forward to verify the data themselves. Military veterans in the audience exchanged knowing looks. They'd seen shooting like this before, in classified reports about Commander Walter's operations. Richard stood frozen, his custom shooting vest suddenly seeming like a costume rather than a symbol of authority. The digital display continued to flash the unprecedented numbers, each digit dismantling his carefully constructed facade. The following morning, Pinnacle Academy's boardroom buzzed with tension. Security footage played on the wall screen, showing Richard's systematic modification of each station. Diana Stone presented documented evidence of equipment tampering, while 2 Olympic Committee members noted multiple regulation violations. Mr. Miller, the board chairman's voice cut through the silence, your membership is suspended pending full investigation. The competition purse will be doubled, $200,000 to the Fallen Warriors Foundation. Richard's protests died as Evelyn quietly placed a folder on the table. Inside lay Dave's detailed notes on compensating for modified weapons, written during his year's training Special Operations snipers. The changes you made to each firearm, she said softly, my husband wrote about them all. He taught me how to read equipment like you read people, by understanding their true nature, not their surface appearance. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. Richard's attempts to handicap an amateur had instead showcased the depth of her expertise. His own prejudice had engineered his downfall. Pinnacle Academy transformed in the months that followed. The board unanimously voted to partner with Evelyn's newly established foundation, creating an unprecedented training program that combined elite marksmanship with veteran support services. The range's world-class facilities, once exclusive to Manhattan's wealthy, now hosted regular training sessions for military veterans transitioning to civilian life. Diana Stone often paused by the new display case near the entrance, where Evelyn's record-breaking target held a place of honor. Beside it sat a simple plaque with Dave's favorite quote: "True precision isn't about the equipment or the shooter alone. It's about respecting both, and understanding that excellence knows no social bounds." Today, Pinnacle Academy stands as a different kind of elite institution. The marble floors still gleam, but now they welcome a more diverse community of shooters. The display cases showcase not just luxury firearms, but also the achievements of veteran trainees. Where social status once determined access, skill, and dedication now open doors. Under the joint leadership of Diana Stone and the Fallen Warriors Foundation, with Evelyn's direct involvement, the Academy has become a bridge between civilian and military shooting communities, proving that true excellence transcends social boundaries and bank accounts. The Fallen Warriors Foundation's training program at Pinnacle Academy has become a model of veteran support. Twice a week, the range fills with service members learning to translate their military expertise into civilian shooting careers. Under Evelyn's guidance, they master both competitive shooting and instructional techniques. The program has already launched successful careers for dozens of veterans, with many returning as guest instructors to mentor new participants. Evelyn still wears her simple gold band, but now it represents more than memory. Each time she helps a veteran master a challenging shot, she sees Dave's legacy living on. His training journals have become teaching materials, his wisdom touching a new generation of shooters. In finding her way back to the range, she didn't just honor his memory, she created something new from the foundation he built. Tales of Light family, if this story touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment about someone who taught you to believe in yourself. Remember, true excellence isn't about expensive gear or social status. It's about dedication, respect, and the courage to prove doubters wrong.